Hi there, Lowe here, and this is the Lowdown. So, on today's episode of the Lowdown, I'm going to be talking about something that I have absolutely no business talking about, and that is extended breastfeeding. That's right. The first question to answer is what is extended breastfeeding? Um, the World Health Organization, or WHO as they are known, recommends a minimum of 6 months of breastfeeding uh, at a minimum, but they recommend 2 years or longer than that, depending on what you're comfortable with. So extended breastfeeding is any beyond 2 years, basically, any amount of time beyond 2 years. Now, what got me interested in this subject and thinking about it is I read a story online last week about a woman who was still breastfeeding. Um, I think it was a 12-year-old, I want to say. I'm pretty sure it was a 12-year-old. So, and the comments of the article that I read, like the comments at the bottom, was a seething mass of hatred. Basically, there were all sorts of people talking about how this woman was going to end up emotionally scarring her child, and how it was bad for him, and it was immoral, and they were like, well, she's doing it because she's getting, like sexual pleasure or something off of it, and so forth and so on. So I decided to start reading up on the subject. That's why I'm making this video like a week after I actually read that story, because I don't like to talk about things that I know nothing about. So I took some days to basically study up on the topic. Um, so I want to argue against some of the arguments against extended breastfeeding, if that makes sense. So the first thing, and probably the biggest thing that I think a lot of people were saying, is that this was going to uh, somehow emotionally scar the child. And the thing about that is, where are they getting that information from? Like, where did that idea come from? Like, I understand how a person could jump to that conclusion just because it seems like there might be some some backing to it, but unless you're a psychiatrist or somebody who's actually done a study on that, you can't just say, well, I mean, okay, you can just say, but you can't correctly just say, oh, it's going to cause mental problems. Like who are you to know that? Like, where are you getting that information from? So there's been no in-depth study that I can find that that specifically proves one way or another. But there has been therapists that have talked to children that were extended breastfed, and they have found no correlation between the amount of time that you were, if you were breastfed for longer, and it having any mental issues. They found no correlation. In fact, they found that some children that were breastfed for an extended period of time were actually better behaved than children that weren't, because they had a closer connection to their mother and was therefore less likely to do something that they thought would hurt their mother or displease their mother. Um, so there's no fact that breastfeeding your child for an extended period of time will have any sort of psychological effect on them, and there's actually some evidence to the contrary. So that argument's gone. All right. So the second argument is that the woman is doing it for perverse reasons, where she isn't doing it for the child, she's doing it for her own personal pleasure or something like that. Now, there's no way for me to prove that one way or the other, obviously, because I can't read people's minds, and neither can anyone else. So, again, where are you getting that claim from? It seems to me like you're saying what you think, but you're stating it as a fact. So I'm going to say doubtful, but again, I can't prove it one way or the other. But to just automatically assume that that is the case is ridiculous. So unfortunately, that's as far as I can argue on that one. There's nothing anybody can prove one way or the other, unless the woman like outright says, "Hey, yeah, I'm doing this for my own personal pleasure," but that's literally happened 0 times. So unfortunately, that's just the case with that. The last one, and this is the most easily dismissed, is that it's gross or that it's immoral. It's not. It's not moral. And I guess my counter question is, who gets to decide that? Like, who gets to decide if something is gross or immoral? If you think it's gross, then don't do it and don't watch. Like, and how it's not like morals are a law. Your morals are just that, your morals. So if you're against it, then don't do it. But you can't force your morals onto somebody else and say, hey, I don't like it, so you can't do it. That doesn't make any sense. So you could take that argument and just throw it away. It's not a good argument. It's not based on any sort of fact or anything of that nature. So I guess the question that nobody is asking, but I'm going to answer anyway, is, hey, Julius, what's your personal stance on the matter? All right. So my personal stance on the matter, if you want to breastfeed for an extended period of time, then you go ahead and breastfeed. Um, it's your life. It's your child's life. As your child gets older, you know, he or she can decide that they don't want to breastfeed anymore, in which case I don't think you should force it. But as long as both you and your child feel comfortable to continue breastfeeding, then continue breastfeeding. Um, would I personally set a limit to the age? I would probably say that 12 would be the highest that I think I would feel comfortable with. But again, I can't make a law, nor would I. Um, you know, keep breastfeeding. If you're both comfortable, if you're both happy, and it's not having any adverse effects on either one of you, then you do you. You do you, boo boo. So, anywho, that's the lowdown. And I'll see you guys next time. In the meantime, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what I should talk to or talk about on the next episode of the Lowdown. And, leave me a like if you liked. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And I'll see you guys around. Deuces.